Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Summer School. Today, we have a repeat guest, which is really amazing because I think we've only ever had one in the history of summer school. But Miles is just that good that we're having him on again. And his first class actually was like really good. I absolutely love it. I say class, but I just mean episode in summer school. He also has a class in the new summer school. So we'll dive into all of that. But his first podcast was kind of on all things client experience, which, if you don't know him, kind of his thing. He's amazing at it. Maybe we'll touch on it a little bit, but he has a whole class inside of summer school, the membership, which, if you don't know what I'm talking about, we launched a school, and it's a community-based platform where you can engage, learn, and get inspired from other photographers and teachers in the industry. Right now, we have 5 classes live, and we have recess episodes, which will be exclusive versions of this podcast, where if you like what he has to say, you can submit your own questions for him, and I will be airing that inside of summer school. So I know that was a lot to tell all of you, but before we dive into this, I just wanted to let you know, if you want to hear more from Miles, you can not only learn from him, but you also will be able to hear an exclusive version of the podcast inside of that platform. So definitely go subscribe. It's $39.99 a month, and it's so fun. I think we have about like 50 subscribers in the last week that it's been live from all over the world, with teachers that are also international. So it's pretty wild how this has all been coming about, and I'm just so stoked for this new platform that I'm bringing to all of you. But anyways, Miles, tell us a little bit more about yourself, except for the fact that you obviously have an amazing client experience and have classes on that inside of summer school. Tell us, like, who is Miles?
You're the coolest. That was like the most smooth intro. Nobody got to see that before I'm calling you out on this before I talk about me. We've spent 30 minutes trying to get you to that one point, and then you just like crushed that whole thing without even taking a breath.
Oh gosh. For everyone listening, Georgia did not sleep well tonight. This morning's been chaos. I already pushed Miles's episode like 30 minutes, and then we had tech things, and then I have mom brain, and it's been a
This
it's
is
been a
good
wild time.
stuff. Y'all, you guys listeners need to hear, like, Summer is crushing this mom thing. She's doing a good job. Her and Jake are figuring it out. And I've had like a front row seat for the last little bit to watch it. It's really cool. So hey, thanks for the kind intro. And yeah, I'm excited for all that's going to happen over on Recess and all that is happening in summer school. I love that you've invited the educators to be a part of that. It's cool that I get to learn from you, honestly, but also like alongside other people that are at very different stages in their careers than I am. I really appreciate that. So yeah, about me, I know I probably did a better job at this in the last episode, so I'll do a shortened version of that intro. But I'm Miles, or Miles Witt Boyer, I guess, is like I go by all 3 names. And I'm a wedding photographer. I'm a dad and a soccer coach. I have at this point, I think we've done weddings in like 42 states and like 14 countries or something like that over the last 15 years. And so I'm not exactly starting out, but I still feel like I'm kind of figuring it out. And a big portion of what I do these days um, is going back and forth between working in the luxury space with really high end clients and then also partnering with really killer brands and helping to tell their story and helping to sort of push forward education on platforms just like summer school and just sort of be a part of all of the different places where photographers show up. It's a cool time to call this a job. I'll say that.
Yeah. Man, so when you say you're partnering with brands, for anyone that might not already follow you, might not follow me, might not fully understand even what summer school, the actual school, not just the podcast, is,
Mhm.
what do you mean when you say like getting involved with brands? And I know for you and me, it might sound simple, but for other photographers listening that might even be in a position where they could do this and haven't thought about it, what do you feel like getting involved with brands really looks like for you? What excites you about it? And like, how do you feel like people could, like, get started in that world?
So all good questions, but like 10 of them. Let me
I know.
let's
Just
start at the
start from
beginning.
something.
Yeah,
Yes.
let's start. We're gonna start from something. So I, when I say I partner with brands, I'll back out and kind of explain what I mean by that. Um, at times we're working with really large names, right? Like since like I think 2016 or 2017, I've been a part of the Fujifilm global team, right? Like that's a big brand. And like, multinational, large global scale brand. And what it looks like to partner with them looks very, very different than what it looks like to partner with like a small camera shop. That they just want you to like pop in and almost play like a little bit more of like this hybrid influencer style type thing. But what it looks like for me these days is intentionally seeking out brands that have great stories. Like I
Mm,
want to find companies that have really cool stories, like a cool ethos to who they are and why they're creating a product or a service that matters. And then looking for ways that as a photographer or a storyteller or a filmmaker, I can approach those brands and say like, hey, I would love to be a part of this story with you. Like I'd love to kind of come alongside you and show people how the product that you've created is really integral into the brand and the business that I run. And that probably sounds like super heady. So like, let's bring it down and like make it really practical. Both of us, how about this? Both of us, um, both know Greg really well, right? Those of
mm,
you guys that are listening don't know that like Greg Peterson is just this super rad individual dude that's got like a great ability to create like powerful color science in Lightroom. Like he's just really, really freaking good at it.
mhm.
And he's done that for some really big names, but this isn't like a large company. It's not like you don't get on the phone with Greg and there's not 40 people in the room. It's literally just Greg. But what we've been able to do alongside him is to say like, hey, I want you to help us capture the feeling of our photos and help us put that intentionally into color that like comes alive in a way that we can rely on. And then through that collaboration, then we can sell it as a preset. But I think people just, am I just blabbering? People just jump to the end all the time. So they always just want to like, oh yeah, well, we want to sell presets. Well, honestly,
Yeah.
I don't care as much about selling presets as I do about getting to know Greg. Like I want the brand relationship. So that's where we spend our time now.
Yeah. Man, and I just love you, Miles, because I feel like you're the perfect person to talk about this because I do think there's a lot of people who only make decisions based off, say, money. Like,
Yeah.
and that's not a bad thing. There's been a lot of times where I've been like, did I make the wrong decision?
Hmm.
Especially with a child involved. You know what I mean? Like,
Of
money
course.
is
Yeah.
important in those senses. But I feel like integrity for me is something that, like,
Mm.
I still wanna know that I'm only partnering with people I truly, really wanna partner with and also, like,
Yeah.
really
Good
support
stuff there.
the product and the people because the product could be amazing, but if the people are just horrible people, it's not something I wanna endorse, you know?
Hmm. Yeah, that's good. That's so. I think that's one of the things that's sort of lost on a lot of our industry right now. And people need to hear the educators or just the voices. They need to hear the people that they recognize the voices say out loud the truth. And the truth is, it's always going to be easier to make $1,000 than it will be to save $1,000. That's just the way our market works.
Mhm.
So if you are out there desperately trying to attach yourself to opportunities just for the money, the brands, not only do they smell that, but they know they can get that from a million people. Like brands are smart too. And so like we all
Yeah.
know, I mean, we all know the people that are like they almost come across as like desperate to be just to be known. Like all I want in the whole world is for this camera company to say my name out loud. And it's like, guys, that's
Yeah.
you wouldn't want to be that kind of girlfriend in high school, right? You don't want to be the desperate one. Like have some confidence in your value and who you are and then when you decide that you want to do some brand work, like do it with integrity. And then
Yeah.
if the money comes, cool. Like that's awesome. That's a cool byproduct, but I have a lot of brand relationships that have never for years and years, they've never paid me out. In fact, actually, a few Summer. I don't know if you couldn't relate to this, but I have a couple of brand relationships that I believe in so wholeheartedly. I've intentionally never set up my like PayPal link or anything like that
Mm.
because I don't want their money.
Hmm.
Like, I just wanna love on them. So and, I think you had to chase me down a little bit, if I'm honest. I think you had to chase me down for some of the training stuff that we
Like,
did
give
for
you
summer
your
school.
PayPal.
You're like, "Miles, we want to pay you." I'm like,
Uh,
"Oh, okay, let's go."
Not that I'm offering $1,000,000, but I was like, "Let
It
me
was
pay you."
close. It was desperately
Uh,
close to that.
you're too
Um,
kind.
so,
Oh. No, I
uh
mean, I love your approach to it because I feel like there's 2 worlds in the brand space. There's, like,
mhm.
people that care about partnering with, say, the brand, and then there are people who it is more of their full-time income to partner with brands, and so it
Mhm.
is like, how do I get the best deal? I have learned a lot from those people as well, like, I got an experience this last year, and I'm not gonna say what experience because I don't wanna give away all the people I'm talking about,
Yeah.
but I had an experience this last year with people much even more well known than like, much more well known than I am, and, the amount of income that they are being offered
Mhm.
for, companies that we use every day in our, businesses. I was just flabbergasted. I was like, "Wow, maybe I need to take this social media thing more seriously, like,
Yeah.
this is crazy." I had no idea there was that kind of money being offered in our industry. But that's a whole almost different perspective when I feel like in our positions, we have our career and we partner with
Mhm.
brands we love as like almost
Mhm.
supplemental because it's like, okay,
Yeah.
cool. Yeah, I love you. If you happen to give something back to me, that's cool too.
Mhm.
And then there's the other side of it where like it is good and it is important, especially when, there's multiple people you're trying to feed and support. But at the same time, then there's the other side where it is basically their full-time income to partner with those people.
Yeah.
Um, and that's like a whole 'nother world. I learned a lot about kind of what needs to go into the contracts, how to negotiate, how to barter, and I was like, "Wow, I didn't like I think you know that these things exist,
Mhm.
but I mean, I don't think I quite knew the amount that, like, the mainstream companies we're working with every day were forking out, like, for, like, 3 reels. I'm like, "This is, like,
Nuts.
outrageous." Not
Hey,
that this
how do
was
you
even what we
know
wanted to talk about, but I'm just
well,
like,
I
"It's
think it's good
crazy."
stuff. I think people are gonna be nodding their heads. Can I ask you a question on your own podcast? How do you know when you're getting sold? That's something I'm always curious about because, like, I know a lot of these bigger
Oh,
name, like,
like
but it sometimes it's so smooth. Like, I'll see a reel kinda come across, and I'm like, "Okay, but do they really believe in that?" Or, like, is that just
oh, like
how do you know?
yeah. Well, I definitely, like, know too there are certain companies where it feels like it's more so like, let's just take X and Y off market, like,
Mhm.
off so for anyone listening, basically, like there is also aside from the company's perspective of like they want to get all of the influencers in a certain space and this is all over in all spaces but so
Mhm.
say the photography space they want to get xyz and then they'll go to like the lower tier influencers next but we want to get all these people we want to basically like buy them out for exclusivity to only talk about us because if all of the popular people are only talking about us we will become the best product or
Mhm.
like not the best product, but they'll be like the most well known.
Yeah.
And for everyone listening, you're like, oh, that doesn't happen in the photo space. It happens in the photo space.
A lot.
It's like a Silicon Valley like fight to the death out here. And it's crazy because I never ever expected that to be happening in just like the wedding photography space. Like I think I understood maybe it could happen, but I also think there wasn't I don't know if this is going too specific, but I think until AI, there wasn't enough new technology for that to need to happen again. Like
Hmm.
Adobe already won.
Yeah.
Like maybe PicTime versus Pixieset, maybe Honeybook and those could have fought to take people off market, but they were already established. Then come new companies with new
Yeah.
tech. It's like it starts all over again. But yeah, I mean, I've heard wild numbers even from um other see, I'm like, "How much can I say?" Anyways, I'm like, "I don't
Yeah.
know how much I'm even legally allowed to say," but wild numbers even just from the places that we might edit in and stuff of, like,
Yeah.
you know,
The bonuses are nuts. Well, hey,
wild.
so that's why I asked you though. So because I have a perspective here, and it's really this: if you don't know if you're being sold, I can remember this. Let me back out just a
Like,
second
being
and
sold, you mean like being bought? Like, is that what
no,
you're
no, no,
referencing?
being like
Or being sold like a fake product
if you're
only
being
because they're getting
sold
paid 30 grand?
exactly. Yeah, if you're
Yeah.
being sold by somebody that you look up to for a product that they're getting, like heavily compensated for, but like everybody
You
knows
also
the
don't know how much they're getting compensated for. Like, they could be getting
yes.
$500, so they might really believe in what they're doing if they're doing it for only 500.
Like I'll admit to this. I'm a total sucker sometimes on Instagram, right? Where it's like, oh, this is the T-shirt that makes your biceps look big and your waistline look small, right? I'm like, yeah, send me 4 of those, and then they come in and they smell
Yeah.
like a Chinese factory and they're horrible. Like the quality is nasty and um, like how do we know in that situation? And so
Mm.
I have a perspective on that, and it is how I've ended up with brand relationships that I really really love.
I
But
would say
it's
by the person, since you're gonna say your answer, I wanna say my answer because I
yeah,
feel like
go
we
no,
might have similar answers.
you go first.
I would say it all, like, comes down to who the creator is. Like, do
Mm,
you actually trust the brand they've built? Because how else would you trust the products they're promoting unless you
mhm,
actually feel like you trust them? I
mhm,
mean, building trust online, that would be a whole 'nother topic, but I feel like if you see that someone's partnering with, like, everything under the moon and they're selling, like, Amazon links, and then they're also trying to, like, talk about these partnerships with, like, stuff in the wedding industry, you're gonna be like, "I feel like this is for money." And
mhm.
then I'm less likely to trust what you're selling, honestly. Do you know what I mean? Like, I feel like it kind of comes down to, like, who you are and who you've shown your audience, like, how you've shown them who you are as to if even the brands I don't know. I don't know if that makes any sense, but in
It
my mind, it
does,
makes
yeah.
sense. Mom brain. I'm
Yeah,
like,
I think you're
how I'm
crushing it.
trying to
I
tell that to you, you know?
I think there's a lot of value in knowing where you are in your own industry,
Mm,
like laterally, knowing who your peers are. And the reason I say that is this. At this point, so I can trace all of my like large sponsorships back to individual relationships. And that's the hardest thing to teach people,
mm,
right? So like when I got connected with PickTime, like when I got the email sent over to Agar from PickTime, it came directly from Phil Porto, who was at the time like we're peers, we're peer to peer, and it was based on a conversation where I just asked him. I said, "Hey man, I am really not happy with the gallery system that I have," and he goes, "Dude, I got you. Let me connect you." Right, and the intention of that connection was not like, "Hey, let's get Miles set up all the way through as a brand partner." The intention was Miles has a problem and he has a friend that has a solution. Right. Same thing happened with the Fujifilm team for me. I ended up with a friend named Jackie Hillier, who is still a dear friend and sweet lady who saw my work and she was like, "It's crazy to me that you're not represented by a brand. And what camera system are you working with?" And I was like, "I'm shooting Fujifilm." And she goes, "This is nuts. I work with Fujifilm. Let me connect you." Right.
hmm.
Um, and the same thing happened with like with Moment and with Holdfast and all of these camera, but it all started for me with understanding where I was on a lateral system, like looking like left and right, not up, but looking left and right and saying like, who are my friends in this industry? Who are people that I can call for an objective review of my work and my client experience and my business? And how am I pouring into those people's lives? Like, how am I serving them and helping them? And then as they grow, I grow. But I think
Well,
the
and I will
tendency
say
is,
too well, I was just gonna say I've given similar feedback to people I'd met who are pulling, like, crazy sponsorships. I was like, "Hey, to me, none of this is important if you don't have any of those relationships in real life." I was like,
yes.
"You need to go to, like, conferences, like, you have to get out of only social media." Because
Hmm.
social media obviously has taken these people really far, but what happens when maybe you can't post as much, you end up in a health thing, like, if no one actually knows you, they're using you. They're
Yeah.
literally using you. Yes, they're giving you a lot of money, but they're using you for their own things. They're not actually partnering with you. Whereas the relationships you've built, they're partnering with you. They're not
Yeah.
using and abusing you. And the
Exactly.
moment that when someone only has those relationships because they have a large social media following, they're going to be dropped,
Yep.
Whereas
Yep.
people that have real relationships and they're meeting people in real life, like those are relationships that they will continue to harvest and continue to grow with no matter the social media changes or the evolution in who you are, your brand, they'll still support
Hmm.
you.
See, and that's I think we just came like full circle with it. So okay, so that brings me though to um you mentioned going to conferences. I know that you are like you're pretty active with things. I mean, obviously you hosted your own, which is so cool. And I so want to know more about that sometime with you because we have brands and friends that are like pounding down my door and saying like, Miles, it's time. Like, when are you doing your own retreat? But
Yeah.
but when it comes to conferences for you, how do you pick what what conference you're going to go to and where you're going to be involved?
So I didn't know anything about conferences at all until like last year. We had a mutual
Yeah.
friend named Noella who, if you follow me, you've probably maybe at least like heard of her or maybe checked her out. She's also a teacher inside of summer school, but an amazing person. And she was going to conferences with a brand that she was representing. And she invited me to go to WPPI last year. And I was like, well, I guess actually it started before her. It started when I met her. So I met her at a workshop conference hosted by Jai two falls ago now in
Hmm.
LA. And that's where I met Noella. And I basically pitched to Jai because I felt like I needed to network more in real life. I was like, hey, I can help you pull other people like me who maybe aren't teaching, but could also kind of help sell tickets because I
Hmm.
like the people you're having. I want to meet some of these people and I'd love to come down and support. Just like put me up in a place to stay and I'll be there.
Yeah.
And I was like, you should do this for a couple other. I was kind of like starting an affiliate program for his conference. LOL. I was
Yeah.
like, you should do this for some other people too. And he was like, do you want to help? I'm like, sure, however I can. And I'm actually teaching at his last wedding photography summit for anyone listening. It'll be March 24th and 25th. So
Cool.
I'm
Let's
pretty sure this
go.
will be out by then if you want to listen to that.
Hmm.
But, anyways, I pitched that to him and I was just like, I want to network in person. Financially, didn't feel like it was just the risk I could take to just start flying everywhere. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like,
Yeah.
there's levels of how much you can network, you know? And so that happened. I met Noella and she told me about WPPI. I had literally never heard of any of the big conferences, Miles. I mean, I'm younger, yes, but like I didn't even know they existed.
That's twice you've called me old. That's okay.
I
That's okay.
mean, I'm younger in the industry. I didn't mean younger
Hmm.
than you.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes, you did.
But just younger in the industry for who I am. Um, so I didn't know conferences were really a thing. Retreats were huge when I started, like
Hmm.
workshops and retreats. That was like the era of them like taking off.
Hmm.
But I had no idea about WPPI. What there's like Imagen, is that if that's how you even say that? Imaging.
Imaging. Yeah.
And there's a
There's Photo
couple like
Plus,
really big
Click
ones.
On. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway. Yep.
I almost went down to hybrid. I had heard of that one,
Yeah.
but that
Cool.
one's more niche and not as large. But I'd never heard of these like massive ones. And
Hey, I
Noella
applied
made a good
today to
point of
speak
just
for them.
like she was like, "Step out of your comfort zone, just come." She was like, "You can crash in my hotel room. You can, as long as you hang out at our booth once for the company she was representing, just come. I'll
Yeah.
let you stay with me." And I was like, "Deal, I'll be there." And that was in my era of networking, which I'll be talking
Yeah.
about in the like class that I'm teaching with Jai. But I was kind of networking in person for both me thinking I wanted to be in the luxury space. I say thinking,
Hmm.
and also with education. And I just reached a point where I grew on social media fast. I felt like I hit a stall, and it was probably both in like who I am, where I was going in life, and not wanting to shoot quite as much. And with all of that, not growing on social media as much because all of the factors that led me to grow, I wasn't pursuing as much, and I was like, it was just a time where I wanted to like press pause on that. And
Yeah. Okay.
I used to post like daily. It was crazy.
Hmm.
And so I was like, well, I want to make relationships in real life. I know all these people, but I didn't feel like I had anything like solid supporting me. There was no
Mm-hmm.
foundation, there was just social media. And what is that? Without anything, it's just nothing. So anyways, went to WPPI and I was like, wait, this is amazing. Um, and so I then went to Evolve and kind of pitched the same thing, like, hey, can I just come?
Hmm.
And I think I went to maybe one more thing and then pregnancy. So here we are now, and I'm
Boom.
going back to WPPI in 2 to 3 weeks. And I would have gone to hybrid if we weren't launching summer school. And
Hmm.
I am kind of picky, but at the end of the day, to me, what was great about WPPI was also making those real relationships. It's like if there's a
Yeah.
company you already maybe say, like, you mentioned Pick Time. Pick Time was there last year, and it's like
Mhm.
we all just, like, went out to dinner late at night together and, like,
Yes.
hung out and partied, and I mean, WPI is its own world because it's in a casino and there are literally, like, parties you can go to with all these people, but it was just, like, the people I met and the companies I got to have real conversations with normally the owners, like,
Mhm.
that's another level of connection that I don't think I could have gotten through an email.
Yeah, yeah, you're spot on. That's the reason I ask is I think that there's like this hunger right now in general for a couple of things that are really healthy. Um you've spoken like you've said a couple times now that that social media is you at least you've kind of alluded to the fact that it's really fragile. And that's something like we speak to a lot in our workshops and our trainings. It's like, you know, use social media as a way to build friendships, but don't trust your company to it. Because at the end of the day, it's not yours, you know, and people get so grumpy, they get so gripey about like, oh, the algorithm changed. And it's like, that's okay. That's their company. They can do that. Like they're allowed. And but building your network has to come down to like, you know, are you showing up for people? Like, are you serving people well? And I think there's a really kind of cool opportunity for photographers to know that like not only is it important for them to grow their worth as a photographer, I'm sorry, in their photography, but also as a photographer. I think I have that slide actually in my
Hmm.
talk for you, right? But like people forget that at the end of most days, your clients and the brands that you're going to partner with, like they're hiring you, they're not hiring your work.
Mhm.
And especially in the wedding industry, like your clients are hiring you without having any idea how you're actually going to photograph their wedding.
So
Um,
true.
like they have no clue. They have like maybe kind of a concept of what your work looks like or what your, you know, like your workflow is or whatever, but they have no actual tangible way of understanding what their photos are going to look like. And so they hire you as an individual. And I think it's important to point out like the brands are doing the exact same thing. They're not hiring if they're smart. Now that's not to say a lot of brands are really not. They're really short-sighted. But if they're smart, they're looking at you not based on your 50,000 or your 10,000 or your 5,000 followers, but they're looking at you based on how engaged is this person. When they ask a question, do people respond? When they share an opinion, do people share it, or do they feel confident challenging that opinion? You know, like what type of human are you going to be as a brand ambassador? And And are you going to play nice with others, or are you going to be the type of person that like immediately ruffles feathers and basically just like kicks rocks on all the competitive companies? Because at that point, you literally just stir up the mess, right? So like you know this, and I'm perfectly happy to say this, but like one of the reasons I'm not going to WPPI this year is because we've made some kind of hard ambassador changes. We've kind of shifted a few of the companies that we're working with, and two of them really specifically that are both companies are companies I've worked with side by side for years, and they're direct competitors. And I have really high level friends at both companies, and I basically just like broke up with one sister to date the other. And I'm not going to go to the largest conference in the world and hold hands with the new girl. Like
Yeah.
that's not a fair thing to do. But you know what's cool is I've told them both that and I've said that now publicly. And in general, most people just sort of smile and say like that's really cool instead of either company being like how dare you not represent us, you know?
One that
Um
also means the one you moved to is a good company because they could have been like, "How dare you not come? Like, you should come.
yeah.
You're with us now," you know?
And not for nothing, it's literally in my new contract with them that I'll make public appearances for this brand. I mean, I'm on a retainer for this company, and I literally it's in my contract. But I had to tell them like, yes, I will, but not yet. Like, let's let the
Mm.
dust settle. Let's allow people to know that like this wasn't a big dramatic situation. You know, I didn't like one company didn't just piss me off or something. I had an opportunity to be a part of something new, and I took it because sometimes just changing things is a good thing in your company. Like I kind of liken it. This is hard for brands to hear this, but I kind of liken it. You shooting film. It's like every once in a while, you just need to put a film stock in that you're not super confident in, just to remind yourself either A, that there's great other film stocks out there, or B, that you really love the film that you usually use.
Hmm.
But either of those is a good thing, you know? But
Yeah.
if all you ever do is like stay in the same lane, shoot the same camera in the same ways at golden hour for the same, white blonde clients on the beach, then you never get any better. So,
Well, and that's kinda how I feel about the same perspective that I've told you already before in previous conversations is no matter how much I even love someone, if there truly was a better product out, unfortunately, I would
yeah.
leave any
Yep.
company I'm with for the product that's better because it just doesn't feel right as a artist to have, like, my integrity connected with a brand or a product that isn't truly the best, which
Mhm.
that is, like, a slippery slope of what is better or worse and what's the best, but at the end of the day, no matter how much I love someone, if it wasn't the best product, I don't know if I could stay, which is
Yeah.
also hard because if the best product was under horrible management, it's like I might not partner with them, I might just use their product and not partner with anyone.
Mhm.
You
Yeah,
know what I
well, I
mean?
mean, I think it's also cool to be able to have the integrity in your brand to say that you can define what good is, in relationship to your brand in so many ways. It's like how many times have we all been to workshops, right, where they say like you need to define success. Like success for some people may be $100,000 or maybe $500,000, but also for a lot of people, like success is just being happy and not feeling tied to a desk,
Mhm.
or like seeing their family provided for and not need. And I think that what you just said is so powerful. Like being able to say, I'm going to go with the best. And the best doesn't necessarily have to mean it's the biggest. I mean, there was a few years where I represented pretty outspokenly, represented probably the biggest camera bag company. And I was like kind of the face of it. And this was years and years ago, but I was like the poster boy for this big camera company. And then I had this sort of funny moment where I was like, I spend most of my life in a very nice tuxedo with like beautiful loafers on. Why does my bag look like I'm like skateboarding? Like it
Yeah.
just doesn't, the two things don't go together. But I was with the quote unquote best, but I left because I realized that I needed to find a company that felt like it represented me as intentionally as I was trying to represent them.
Hmm.
And so I was telling you, I literally just got off the call, and I hope this all works out now that I'm saying it out loud. But I just got off the call with this cool little German camera company called Oberweth, and the bags are sick. They're crazy, but they're really expensive. But you know what? So is our photography, and it feels like it's a good fit. Like it feels like I can put this bag on and say like, hey, yeah, that kind of matches the tuxedo and the vibe and the quality of the work, and everything. There's sort of like a equilibrium there. So I my hope always when we're doing conferences is that I can walk through the floor of a conference and I can know as many people as possible behind the booths and hug them all and not have bad blood with any
Hmm.
of them. That's like first and foremost. And then secondly, that I can sit in on a class with somebody that either maybe I know, I'll give you like a true story. I sat in the back row one time at a Ben Hartley class, and Ben's a good buddy of mine. Um, I mean, we're not like best friends, but we've had some funny memories, and we're friends. We're definitely friends. But I sat in like the back row and I watched other people react to him, and I had so much fun meeting people that just love Ben, and I'd never bothered to tell any of them that we're friends.
Hmm.
Like I just got to meet people and hear people talk about how cool, one of my friends is and how much he had changed their life, and I got to learn from them. And like that's why I go to conferences. It's for the experience of remembering like this industry is really cool, and you can meet some really fascinating, really brilliant people with a ton of humility. Or you can be that person that walks through the middle of the room and acts like you already know everything and you already have everything, and there's no reason for you to be there. And truth be told, most people just wish you'd leave anyway. Um, so I don't know. I guess that's my 2 cents on brand work in general. Hey, I want to ask. I want you to kiss and tell. What's your favorite brand relationship you've ever had?
Probably pick time.
Yeah?
I feel like it. Like, I just feel like I know that I'm representing, like, a company of people that I really, like, love and support, and I also
Yeah.
really love the product, and I feel like they're always doing things to make it better and, like, listen to the people that use it. Like, I genuinely think they're always just trying to find new and innovative ways to, like, listen to their people, which I don't feel like you see that in every single company, you know? Like,
Agreed.
I do
Yeah.
feel like they're listening, and I've loved all of the in-person like, times I've connected with them, of course. Yeah, probably big time.
That makes
What
me
about
happy.
you?
Yeah, they're really cool. I actually man, I'm gonna ruffle feathers by not saying what everybody's gonna think I'm gonna say. I'm gonna say Holdfast, actually.
Mm,
Um, Matt is he's a funny dude. He's like this leather worker in outside of Tulsa, Oklahoma, that still makes everything by hand. And he's kind of a goober on his social media.
mm,
He's so polarizing because people are like, like he's always got like too many cameras on and too much leather on his body, and he's just a goober. But he has, over the course of the last 15 years, I mean, he has just shown up for us over and over
mm.
again in cool ways. I think we designed the first ever custom moneymaker strap with him and sold it as the Photoco strap. Um, and just a lot of years working side by side with him. Picktime, as far as like a large brand, yeah, Picktime is right up there as well. I mean, just such
Yeah,
supportive people.
yeah. Like,
Um,
they care, you
they
know?
they really do. They
Yeah.
really really care. Hey, how excited do you get? I'm going somewhere with this, I promise. How excited do you get every year when you get your Christmas present from Picktime?
It's so cute. I feel like
Is
that's so fun. I will say that's the side of, like, they're not like, that's, like man, what was I gonna say? I was gonna say they care, but I feel like it's also a part of their brand to care. Like,
Yeah.
obviously, I know they care because I know them in person, but if
Mhm.
you didn't know them in person, you might just be like, "Wow, they're really good at marketing," because that is, like, genius move right there to send your favorite people, like, a Christmas gift.
Yeah, it is. It's my favorite. And like listeners that don't know this, that's not normal, by the way. You don't get like
Christmas
you
presents.
yeah, you might get like if anything, it's almost the opposite. It's like, hey, here's your Black Friday responsibilities as an
Yes,
ambassador.
please
Like,
post.
yeah, share, post, do this, do that. Pick time is like they sent this cute little teapot this year. And it's just do you remember, were you a Pick time ambassador when we got the slippers?
No, I got a beanie the last year before
Yeah, beanie was cute,
the
and the little coffee, the little tumbler.
yeah. Everyone
And they
listening
gave
is probably like, "Wait, what? Pick Time's giving you gifts?"
yes, exactly,
Oh,
but they're not like here's the thing, learn something from Pick Time, you guys. These are not gifts that cost $1,000. They're just
no.
truly they have nothing to do with photography. They have nothing to do with the industry. They're just truly, like, thoughtful little knickknacks that
Oh, wait,
I
I
get
will
so
say
excited.
that Pick Time, I feel like, does being a brand so well. Pick Time's probably like, "Wow, you guys, thank you."
Yeah.
I will say one area where I feel like they do it so well is, like, not only is their branding very niche, the
Uh-huh.
brand they put out online is very niche, how they are in person is very niche, but also even in the gifts that they send us, very niche. Like,
Mhm.
the kettle, it made sense. The color palette of that company fit with Pick Time. Like, it
Perfect.
all
Yeah.
is, like, in perfect unison all the way down to the point that one time, I feel like this is fine that I say this. They asked me to be in an ad, and they just asked, and so I didn't even ask if it was paid. I was like, "Yeah, sure, I got you." And it was just like, people were just offering to help be in a video because we love Pick Time, not because we're,
Mhm.
like, getting paid. But then after the fact, they sent a gift card, and I was like, "Oh, I didn't even expect payment. This is very nice." And even down to the companies the gift card worked for, you could choose, like, 3 different companies. They
Yeah.
were so niche. One was, like, a linen, homeware, like, company, and one was obviously photography related in case you wanted to do it that way, and I'm like,
Mhm.
"I'm not using this on photography stuff." I got myself a new comforter, but no, literally the companies they even partnered with for the gift cards were, like, totally in line with who they are as a company. It was just crazy,
Mm.
like, how far they go into every single thing being intentional, and if you've seen their brand and you see, like, the homepage when you just look up Pick Time, like, think that and then think everything they do is in line with those colors and with
Yeah.
that, like, aesthetic and with it being, like, kinda like high-end homemaking, I don't
Mhm.
know, like but it is impressive as a brand, and as photographers, you could pull from this how well they are at curating who they are as a company.
That's so like it's so solid. I hope that people listen this far into this conversation because this is probably where it turns the corner to where it's most relevant for I think most people. In the
Yeah.
sense of like this isn't so much about like me and Summer having a conversation over how many brands pay us to represent them. It's more like lessons that I've learned at least along the way from like really successful brand relationships and how I can use what the research, the data that they have already like drawn, how I can use that to like further my own client experience.
Mhm.
And that's one of the reasons that I like a lot of times will speak. We've got a video that we're prepping right now for the new company that we're I'm just can I say it? Is it okay if I use it or no? You want me to not? Okay. Um the new company that we're kind of like working with, the 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 brand video we're building out is this idea of like how if you attach yourself well enough to the right brands, it's actually your clients that get the benefit.
Hmm.
It's not you that gets the benefit, it's your clients. You're able to pass it directly onto them. Like the value of your work goes up because of who you're kind of sitting alongside. And so I would always just tell I mean it's odd to I'd love to know your perspective on this cuz you shoot so much film. But as a like primarily digital shooter, um, I mean, I even tell photographers all the time, I'm like, you should shoot every single camera brand that you possibly can until you find one that feels the most like your eye.
Mm.
Not from a self-serving perspective, but so that you can remove that barrier between you and your client.
Mm.
You know, so that like the work that you're creating feels like it was created by you for them and not by this camera for them, right?
Yeah.
Um, I'm,
I mean, on film, I feel like almost that might play more into, like, what film stock you're choosing, which,
mhm,
honestly, I am still a human with anxiety, and I do not like trying new things. Like, when it
mhm,
comes to film, I'm very much like a creature of habit.
yeah.
But I will say the last wedding I shot, I did try different film stocks at the wedding. So, that will be interesting. But
Okay.
I would almost say it goes even further into what lab you're choosing. I feel like film stock you'd be choosing is important, and I used to basically only use Portra 400. It works in most scenarios, but I was faced with a wedding that was very dark, and so I had to try new things, and we'll see. Maybe it'll become my whole new personality. Maybe I'll like that company more. They're smaller. Who knows?
Yeah.
Um, but I did start a relationship with Kodak, which was awesome. I say start because I feel like I haven't gotten it to where I would love for it to be
Okay.
Kodak.
Yeah.
But then as far as lab, I was going to just like a little mom and pop in LA because there's a million labs in LA, and for my last wedding, I
I saw
decided to head
this.
out to Richards,
Let's go.
and oh my gosh, I'm thinking they actually said that they'd be down. I would love for them to have a class inside of summer school, the membership, and so for anyone listening that doesn't know Richards, I would say Richards from my knowledge, is probably in like the top 5 film labs, probably in the world.
Yeah.
As far as for wedding photographers, definitely in the top 5,
Yeah,
and
they're
it's
the one.
drivable for me. Like, I have a fear of mailing film, which is why I've never gone to like the best lab because
Yeah.
I'm scared of mailing a wedding. But it's like a 40-minute drive and anything in LA is 30. So I was like,
Mhm.
you know what? Let's drive out there, even if it intimidates me to go to this like fancy lab. Let's go. Um, and man, I had such a good experience. I did not expect it because sometimes, I don't know, I'm a young female. I don't know, sometimes labs can be kind of like camera stores where it's
Yeah.
like, oh, you don't know what you're doing. You know what I mean? Like that just
Mhm.
happens as a woman in the industry.
Ugh.
And especially with film, you're way more likely, I feel like, to get the old man that's just
Really?
like looking down on you, you know?
Huh.
Um,
Is that the 3rd time you've called me old in the I'm just
Not
kidding. That
you.
was a
I
joke.
mean,
I
like
was kidding. That was a joke.
genuinely.
That one was a joke.
Anyways, so that does happen still to this day with like film labs, film stores, camera stores happens too. Um, and then sometimes I'll get someone that actually wants to talk and then we have a great time. Like
Mhm.
I love going to camera stores. I go to them like anytime there's a cool one in
Mhm.
the city I'm in. I had a
Yeah.
great relationship with my camera store in Seattle, Glazers. I, like, knew management. I walk in, they know me by name. I'm like, "That's when you know you spent too much money." But I
Mhm.
would rather buy my gear in person from people I like than online. But anyways, went to Richards. I don't even know if I remember your question, but I had the best experience, and I do think I will probably be going to them from now on. I'm supposed to get the scans back today, so I'll let everyone know if for some reason I don't like them, maybe I won't go to them. But as far as the experience I had with them, truly, they're like just like how there's luxury wedding photographers, I would say they're like a luxury lab.
That's so
So
cool.
the lab I go to, they're just gonna send me my scans. Some are gonna be upside down, some are gonna be need to be flipped vertically.
Mhm.
However, Richards, they're gonna flip everything for you, make sure when they send it to you, it's sent over, like, as perfect as they can. If you number things, they'll even send it over in, like, the right order of the wedding day. You can send in, like, reference of how you want yours to individually, like, look, like, the tones you want. I
Mm.
call it, like, a reference sheet. I sent over
Mhm.
a reference sheet, and they'll actually make sure when they scan them that they even go as far as, like, to making sure the tones kinda match what you're going for your specific vibe, which in film, if you don't know, they have a lot of power in when they scan, what colors they're actually choosing to pull out for you. And so, if you're going to, like, an old man mom and pop, they might have a very specific eye that is not in
Mhm.
line with who you are as an artist. So just like camera brands, like you said, like choosing one that aligns with you as an artist, I do think the lab you choose is really important because it's gonna basically determine what tones you're delivering your clients
Yeah,
completely.
that's
That's almost
so
more
cool.
important than the camera brand. You can't just like edit over it. I mean, you can try
Mhm.
to edit. People do edit film scans, but overall, what you get back from the lab, you're not gonna have that much control. Like,
Mhm.
it's not like a raw file. So anyways, they are like so specific, so curated. Um, Even with me, since I've mostly gone mom and pops, I haven't had the choice between which scanner I want really in my career. And they were like showing me they gave me like a
Yeah.
tour.
You want the
I just
frontier? Do you want
they
that?
had
That's
no
so
idea who
cool.
I was. Like I just walked in. I didn't know anything, didn't do anything right in
Mhm.
their world because
Mhm.
with Richards, you have to like check out online first and then you show up with your bag if you're most of people are probably not showing up in person with them since they're
Mhm.
so world renowned. So anyways, you have to do it online. There's not like a cash register because it's almost looks like a brewery for film. Like it's huge.
Mhm.
Um and so I'm just there for like 20 minutes trying to like sort my film and figure out how to check out and it was a hot mess because I pushed different roles. Anyways, long story short, they have no idea who I am. Um, don't know if I just started film yesterday or if I'm actually a professional. And I end up getting to like meet one of the, I would say he's probably higher up in staff. And he was like, "Can I give you a tour?" And I was like, "Yes, you can give me a tour." So he literally walks me through like they have employees just working. He's like, "Look, this is this scanner, and this is why we like it, and here's the other scanner, and this is why this one get." And it was just like, it was so fun, and I was like, "Man, if all labs were like that, I almost feel like they would have more business." Like, it was, like, incredible. I
100%.
know Richards obviously, like, different, as who they are as a company is different, just like as photographers, we probably hope that our company has that word different
Mhm.
when people think of us, but I will say it was actually, like, such a solid experience. That was
That's
such a
so
long
cool.
story, but I'm like that was I'm very excited for that just relationship to
Mhm.
grow, and, yeah, if they give a class in summer school, that'll be, like, so fun.
Yeah, that's insanely rad. Can Okay, so let me point this out because this again, this is so funny. I'm the this is just how I always am on a podcast. It's like whenever I end up being interviewed, I always end up flipping on people. But you just did exactly what brands want you to do.
I know.
You
Yeah, that's
just
so true.
gushed. You did. You just gushed with you're not getting paid, you're not getting
No.
endorsed, you're not getting told that you have to do that, but you just gushed over a brand experience.
It was
And
incredible.
that's the kind of relationship, y'all. Like when you want to start brand relationships, instead of jumping right into the like I would do anything to be a Nikon photographer, right? Instead of that, like find the brands that you can't, just the companies that you can't help but just gush over, and build relationships with them because you already feel it. Like it's already real, you know?
Yeah.
So, man, I hope for you just because you're so giddy and dorky about this whole thing.
I know.
I hope that they end up showing up in summer school and not for nothing, but because I have to. No, we have a camera shop here locally that's really cool. They're like they're the oldest like family owned. I think that's how they like market themselves, or maybe like longest running family owned camera shop in the
Hmm.
company in the country. And they're really cool. I've partnered alongside Bedford's for years and years and years, but as my brand has grown, I've kind of like I've sort of taken an exit there. But I haven't had the greatest film scans come back, and so I
Hmm.
do have to mail my film in. And it's so funny because often I end up telling people, they'll ask me like if I'm a hybrid shooter, that I'm like, I'm not, because it's an unnecessary risk for me to shoot hybrid. Whereas like you just said, you can literally like
Drive to one
leave
of
a
the best in the
leave
world.
a wedding and drive straight to Richards. And I'm insanely jealous of that, if I'm honest, because
Well, and a lot of people mail, and had someone tell me, because when I pushed film, so I pushed a lot of my roles and I pushed
hmm
them a good bit, which
hmm
I don't even think my lab cares to do that because you have to
yeah,
change things in developing. I don't think my lab would do push film. It's just like a mom and pop, and I like their
yep,
colors, so
hmm
that's all that matters.
yeah,
But I was like, I gotta just finally take the leap
let's try
and
it.
go somewhere nicer, not somewhere 5 minutes away.
Yep.
And all of that to say, where was I going? Oh, mailing. One of my friends was like, "Well, if you don't go to Richards," it was actually the teacher in summer
hmm
school, Autumn. She was
hmm
like, "If you don't go to Richards, you could mail it to Indie Film Lab."
hmm
And I was like, "Man, I just don't want to mail it." And she was like, "You could put an air tag in there." And when I told Richards that, they were like, "The amount of air tags and like tracking devices that we get
That's
sent with
so
people's
funny.
film, and because they're like world renowned, same with indie, like
hmm
really good labs, like they take care of it, they make sure it goes back
Of
with your
course,
stuff."
yeah.
But she's like, the amount of just like dinging happening like at all times, my phone being like, "Hey, this person's tracking you." She's like, "Nope,
Mhm.
it's just film. No one's tracking me." And I'm
That's
like, that's actually
hilarious.
hilarious, like the amount of probably just like beep beep like just going
Yeah.
on all the time. Oh gosh.
What a funny yeah, what a weird world we
But
live
that's
in.
your
That's
hint
awesome.
for anyone that might feel like, I live in the middle of nowhere, I really want to shoot film.
Mhm.
Get a tracking device, I guess, and just make sure your lab's, like, used to it, because I guess
I'm
labs probably are used to it these
I
days.
I'm sitting here looking at this Leica point and shoot that I have that just it's got a roll in it that just needs to go back, and I just have been like I've just been waiting and waiting and waiting. So thanks for making me feel guilty about that. And also Richards, I think I'm sending it to you guys. Let's go. Only if you show up in
Dude,
summer school.
they literally emailed me saying they would be interested, so,
Okay. Well, I think at
um,
one point I emailed you saying that I would be interested, and here I am.
I
Um,
know, right?
so
I will
back in
say,
summer school.
all the way back to conferences for anyone listening. Wow, now I'm really just promoting them, again, not being paid.
Yep.
For
Yeah.
anyone going to WPPI, Richards will be there, so you can go meet
There
them
you
in
go.
person and make good connections like me if you wanna, like, get to know your lab. They
I
told me
kind
that they'll
of
be
love
there,
this.
so yeah.
Talk about it like a total kiss and tell episode that we don't like. Nobody ever does this. Everybody tries to play coy, okay? But like realistically, there are brands that we come alongside that do really cool things for the industry. So I think it's cool that we've had like a whole chat here about that.
Yeah.
Honestly, I really
Is
do.
there anything else you wish that we covered about brand relationships? I feel like one thing before we wrap up, because I know
hmm
this has been long for everyone listening, and I love how I was like, normal summer school episodes don't need to be too long because we got to save some stuff for the recess people.
hmm
Me and Miles, we just ran, so
We just
you
go
know.
suck it
Um,
up, people.
but one thing I do wish we covered is if someone was first starting out and they're like, "Well, obviously you guys are getting partnerships. You
Yeah.
guys have, say, been in the industry for a while, have a following, have an," I like the word audience better. I had someone
hmm
ask me like, "What is my audience?" And I was like, "Oh, I love that
mm
perspective more than following." But anyways, we have an audience and we also have been in the industry for a while. Say someone was starting, but they're interested in building better relationships with people in whatever they're doing, what would be your advice to them? Like, step one, if they're not reaching out to you, how you feel like you could get involved with building good relationships, maybe in person or online for companies that you love and support.
Yeah. Okay. Step one: don't cut corners.
Hmm.
Like, don't cut corners in your own work. Don't cut corners in your friendships or in your marriage or in your health or at the gym or on a run, just be the person that has the character to not cut corners.
Mm.
And I think what you're left with at the end of step one is then this giant question where you say, like, okay, well, so then what do I do? And if you have a brand that you truly want to build a relationship with, then the right answer is to be a good supporter of that brand first. So show up and love on them first. And that can't be like cluster posting, going back through and commenting on their last 11 Instagram posts and just hoping that they're going to write you. Again, that's cutting corners. Like, it has to be getting to know what they're up to and where they're headed, and starting to understand whether or not there's like a point at which where you're headed and where they're headed will meet. And then starting to paint that picture for them, building relationships directly. I know, I can't even imagine at these large brands how many like DMs they get a day. I really can't. I have no idea. It's got to be absolutely overwhelming. And yet that's, I feel like, where most people stop. They're like, hey, I want a free camera. Like, did you see the Sigma just released that super modern, rad looking camera last week? Have you seen this thing yet?
No,
You
I
need
don't
to. I
think
know.
so.
Sigma, you don't really think of them as like a camera brand company, but they released this camera last week that looks like something that Apple would have made.
Mm.
Not it's really cool. But what was funny is I was watching it release, and I was just watching the ticker on the comments, and the vast majority of people that were like, send me one and I'll make content for you. And it's like, they don't need you. Stop. Like, that's absurd. Do you really think that there's any chance that they're going to reply back to you with like, oh yes, there's one in the mail? Instead, like, find ways to build relationships with brands and with people that represent the brands. And not that I'm plugging me on this, so you can, I guess, but I don't necessarily think that I'm the best person to do this with. But if I have a brand relationship, say that you really want to ramp up your album sales, and you start looking around and you say like, hey, what's the biggest step in that? Well, I need to have a design, does a design software that does a really great job with that, right? Okay, so Pixelu does that. Smart Albums is incredible. Who's on the brand team? Well, Miles Witt Boyer is on their brand team, and I heard him on Summer Grace's podcast. So I could write Miles, say, hey, I loved your episode on Summer's podcast. Tell me a little bit more about Smart Albums. That's such a like organic way to start a conversation. And you know what, over the course of 6 months you might end up with somebody saying like, hey, you've got awesome work, I'd love to connect you with the brand. But cutting corners is like the fastest way to get anybody like Summer or me or much more established, much more known photographers than us to just immediately check out and be like, we know that you don't actually give a crap about us, you just want what we have to offer. And frankly, y'all, hear this out, we don't really have that much to offer. Like, these brands don't really like, you might think it's like I don't have like stacks of Nikes piling up anywhere. Um, so, but I think once you get good at working with any brands, then it crosses over. I don't know, Summer, are you um like, what are you into outside of photography?
Well,
You're a mom right now. Mom
yeah,
life.
I
Yeah.
don't know, we have no free time right now.
Yeah, that's true.
When
Fair.
I was pregnant, I actually did get, which I feel like this is a pregnancy thing, but it also ruled my life. I got into, like, baking a lot, and I
Yeah,
baked
let's
all the
go.
time.
That's cool.
Um, when I was pregnant, LOL, I feel like I had more time. Now that
Hmm.
the baby's here, there's less time.
No doubt.
But I hosted weekly girls' nights, so I'd, like, decorate the house and have girls
That's
over.
cute.
I'd loved for them to, like, be in theme. I tell some people, I'm like, "It's kinda like a Bible study, but without the Bible,"
Mm.
because all these girls would get together and we would just, like, talk deeply, and, when else does that doesn't happen in the
Wait,
secular
that's
world.
really cute. That's cool.
I love that it happens for me. But yeah, so that started. We have a whole little group chat for it. So I'm hoping it continues like monthly.
Mhm.
Um, because I just got in a place where I didn't have the community I wanted in the place I used to live. And I
Yeah.
was like, okay, something has to change in LA. Like, and I can't just wait for it to change. If it's going to change, I need to do it. So yeah, girls' nights, they're like, yeah, my child. Um, that's fun. We used to bike, but we can't bike right now because of baby, but we have a bike
Mhm.
seat for her when she can sit,
That's
then
fun.
we will bike with her,
Yeah.
just like to town. So
Yeah.
honestly, my hobbies involve probably clothing a little bit,
Mhm.
um, and hopefully more once I have more free time. Me and Jake reflected on the fact that, like, because we have no family where we live,
Mhm.
we the only break we've had from Georgia is, when we did a 3-day wedding last
Mhm.
weekend. Um, I wouldn't say that's a break to shoot a
Yeah.
3-day wedding,
Not really.
but that's the only break, and it's not that I don't love her, but I was like, "Wow, yeah, it makes sense that people move back to where their families live
Yeah.
because there is a lot of support in that, and obviously, we can hire a nanny eventually, but at this age, I don't really want to hire, like, a babysitter
Yeah.
and a nanny just to get, like, a break. I don't feel like it's necessary. But yeah, as far as hobbies, there's not much, but I've also never had the most hobbies. Anyways, I could ramble on this because I genuinely love what I do so much that
Yeah.
this is just my life. And that
Yeah,
might
it's just who
sound
you are.
unhealthy to some people, but this is just who I am. Like I live, breathe, eat business ideas, and it genuinely is like what's always floating in my
Mhm.
mind. And then luckily photography was like the creative outlet that like supported everything.
See, I kinda love that, but I the whole reason I ask is, like, I feel like instinctually, you probably like, when you're building out these girls' nights, you
True.
take things that you've learned from business work, and it, like, empowers that. It feeds it, right? And so, you're networking with these girls, building relationships with these girls in a new city, and creating an experience for them that's probably really valuable, right? But that's all stuff that's like you've learned professionally and you've like taken it over. And
True.
so, like for me, I'm in my late 30s, and I'm not by any means. I mean, at one point in my life, I was a pretty like accomplished athlete, I guess, but
Mm.
I'm not now. I'm just a kind of fit dad. I'm not a dad bod. I'm sort of a fit dad, but I'm on a race team, but I'm only on a race team because I'm really good friends with so many people that are on the race team. So I run,
Mm.
and honestly, I'm probably the slowest person on the team. But I still get to wear the singlet and go out and, run these races and have fun with these guys and women, and it's a brand relationship that I learned these lessons from like work stuff,
Mm.
and I have that kind of value for work stuff. Or I had one of the boys that I coach, one of the soccer players, asked me yesterday. We were at a league game, and we have a tournament coming up, and he said, "Are you bringing the camera again to our tournament in Kansas City?" And I was like, "Yeah, buddy, I probably will." And he goes, "Good, because if I score, I want another goal like you did last year." And it's just
Mm.
like cool ways that we can take our experiences, our relationships, our love for this industry, and take them into conferences to meet new people, but also take them into brands to serve the brands in really cool ways. And hopefully maybe then the brand serves us back. But regardless, like if you love the brand enough, we just gave Richards a 20-minute ad for free.
That is so true.
But then also like back into your own personal life. It's like this triangle of saying like, no, how do I get to use these experiences for
Well,
me as well?
I will say
Um,
I don't know how this all plays into fact, probably from my love of, like, gift giving, which probably plays into my business, but also played into when I baked. I
mhm.
started a community basket of baked goods for our, like, apartment complex,
See,
and then I gave Christmas gifts to everyone. I, like, packaged little boxes and gave them to all of our neighbors, but that's just who I am. So
yeah,
it had, like, a card, like, "Hey, I'm pregnant, so this is early in case I go into labor, but I wanted everyone to get their Christmas presents." And then literally one of our neighbors gave us, like, a but 2 of them gave us, like, baby gifts, and I've obviously, we didn't ask for that,
yeah,
and we barely know these people. We just moved here when we found out we were pregnant, but I don't know. I just like gift giving and knowing our neighbors. I was walking around the neighborhood yesterday and I told Jake, I was like, this almost feels like something you'd say as a high thought, but like, how crazy is it that we all live in the same exact space, but none of us know each other? And he was like, that is weird. Like, that is, the world we live in, that like you
yeah,
could literally not know someone like 2 doors down, but you coexist in the same exact like air.
100%.
But I feel like for us, we actually do know a lot of our neighbors, which is really fun because in LA in today's world, I don't feel like that's common.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, it's just been a really beautiful thing to happen here. But yeah, I also send gifts to my clients and stuff, and they're also homemade. So I guess it all kinda circles together.
Yeah. Well, so I think that wraps it. That was my whole point is like, I think if you aspire to work with brands, you have to be an aspirational relationship.
Hmm.
Like you have to be somebody that is worth something to the people around you. And I always say this at like most of our podcasts and most of our, workshops, I've always said that like if you want to be the most valuable person in the room, you have to add the most value to the most people in the room.
Hmm.
And as soon as you can add the value to the brands, then they'll come, they'll show up. Um, but as long as all that you want is what you get in return, there's not really anything in it for them. So,
Man,
um,
well, Miles, this is so good. I feel like every time you talk, I'm like, let me just like write down all these one-liners. Like, how do these pop into his brain?
there you go.
It's so good. I feel like in another world, you'd be like a pastor or something.
Leading
I
my own Bible studies with Bibles.
Oh gosh. Yeah, I always
Um,
say business coaches are like pastors in the business world. They have the
mhm.
one-liners, they have everything. But no, genuinely, you have such good wisdom, and it's always such a good time to have you on. If you're still listening to this point, definitely leave us a review or share the podcast with a friend if it meant something to you. Go follow Miles. We'll have everything attached in the show notes in the description. If you want to hear about client experience, I mean, you've heard him talk, and even what he says, you're just like, wow, like that is his client experience class inside of summer school. So go subscribe, go listen, $39.99 a month. And it's not just that, but you'll get to ask him exclusive questions. He's in there engaged, which you totally don't have to. So I love that you are.
Mhm.
But yeah, it's such a good time always having you on. So if you guys don't know Miles, go connect with him. And thank you so much for coming on. Is there anything you would like to say? I feel like I wrapped us up pretty well, but if you
You
want to,
just crushed that wrap up. Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
perfect. Oh my gosh. Thank
I
you
love this with
guys.
you. This is so much fun. So thanks guys. Thanks for sticking with us.
Awesome. Bye, everyone.